And our brother, of course, is back from Kemet. Doc, it's good to see you.
It's a pleasure to be back with a portion of the family. I heard for a short little time the comment. First of all, the play was very poignant, and secondly, the comment by the young gentleman with respect to the Caribbean young ladies and the European men. I think that I've been asked many of times, let's say I'm in Georgia, and they ask me where I came from, and I said Georgia. When I'm in New York, and they ask me where I came from, New York. I mean, I look like anybody there, so you know where I came from. And I think that we finally have reached to the point where we are from where black people are.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And I don't think it matters where we actually come from, because when the cracker's ready to kill us, you kill us from anywhere.
It is African Re-Education Month, as many of you who listen to the broadcast know, and we were very, very excited when we were leaving Kemet just now in August to find out that Doc was going to actually be in the United States during this period of time. There are so many different works that Doc has done that in many instances, I think when we talk, it's very difficult to even narrow him down to a particular topic, and we certainly today wanted to get the breadth and scope of his wisdom. I wanted to, Doc, if I could, because I don't think we've really done this in all the different programs that we've done, to get into Blackman of the Nile and his family, if we can do that today. I also wanted you, though, to reiterate and maybe talk with us. We talked with you on the telephone from Kemet related to the first annual Nubian Festival. I'd like you to maybe recap some of that and your own projection and feelings about what happened, some of which the audience knows, obviously, from you and myself.
Well, I think in capsule form, there are certain individuals in Egypt more or less read my mind. I was charged with doing things which I had not even initiated. However, it doesn't mean that I didn't think in that direction. When I was charged by the newspaper of trying to establish a separate state for Nubians and a separate state for Arabs in Egypt, that was in my thought, but it's not in the action I did. As an African, it had to be in my thought, unless I was going to sleep. And you can't charge, even in Egypt, a man for his thoughts. You have to charge him when those thoughts become outside of the arena of thoughts and it come into action. Mm-hmm. If I had tried to encourage someone else, and that's where the situation of being a trained lawyer came in, and I was able to deal with it from that perspective. The Nubian Festival was something that I had planned for a number of years. I planned it in various directions. First to have a conference, to have different meetings, and the Daboud village was a part of that development. If I was able to establish a good rapport with a large village, then it would give me the necessary acceptability among my fellow Nubian people. I had to establish, first of all, integrity. The character of the individual who was going to come, myself, would have been somebody that they know they can trust. A man could trust me with his child or his wife or his sister. It wouldn't matter who, and with his money. So you had to develop that kind of trust. Well, after that was done, and I started to teach at Al-Azhar University free of charge. I didn't charge anything for the 2 years I taught there, even bought books for the students. That developed within the Egyptian hierarchy, and particularly Islam, those who control, and the Sheikh being the highest. A kind of respect for the culture and the religion and so forth. So in that society, I could move around freely. What had happened is that the man whose travel agency I had to use locally got jealous and thought that he could crash into this.
Locally, in this case, meaning in Egypt.
In Egypt.
I see.
And when he found that I wasn't about to let him take away this from me and to use me as a vassal, he became very angry, and all that we had done together before and since, he came back to the United States and went personally to various individuals, handing out money. Different organizations stopped me, buying up all kind of hotel rooms. And one time he had all the hotel rooms of the major class 5 hotels in Aswan bought out. You see, you can buy rooms, every room in the place, until X amount of days before that time what the hotel give you.
Right.
So you lock up the rooms from all this. As long as you give it up at a certain time, you don't lose a penny. So what they had done is this. They locked it up. They didn't stop by trying to do this to me. My digs, where I was digging, and since I had been a kind of struck gold archaeologically, the government still allowed them to throw tons of dirt, 3 truckloads of dirt on my dig, and my dig was considered to be very important. The personal attack, when they couldn't beat me that way, then they start with personal attacks and character assassination in this newspaper. And the last position just before you came they took was demanding my arrest for an involvement with treason with the Minister of Culture, the Minister of Tourism, and the Governor of Aswan, who, by the way, had to rush to the States to see one of my son-in-law who had gone blind. And when I rushed back, while I was landing, this man was dying at the airport. So...
it's the Governor of Aswan.
The Governor of Aswan.
So when you got back, he was dead.
He was dead. And that was my strongest, quote-unquote, Arab-Egyptian support within the government system. So I had all these things happening. Then I got a mild attack of a stroke and was able to overcome that. And so there were a number of things going on.
Yes.
Within 7 months, I was on this constant attack. And then within the last 3 weeks, it came more concentrated to the extent, I think you been there one night when the fellow came up to me and make it a one-on-one
yes.
attack. But he didn't stay there very long because I attacked him with a bottle.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah. You know, let me just again in terms of setting the stage, while the situation was occurring back here in the USA with Dr. Jeffries, and I'm talking about the media blitz that you saw began to go down, the same thing was happening in Egypt with this particular newspaper that Doc is referring to in terms of a writer who had written, I believe, 7 different articles that were accusing Dr. Ben of attempting to overthrow the Egyptian government at the same time that he was, of course, moving to complete and begin the Nubian festival. So the timing really could not be accidental, very clearly.
Well, because the American consulate in Cairo conveniently find time to call me to ask if I needed any service. This when they found that the festival was a fact. Nobody could turn it around and it was going. Then he found time to call me, know my address. He's supposed to have lost it. And, with the office got files, and when you go down file papers, they got about 3 or 4 different copies of different files. He couldn't have possibly lost it. But then he tried to find out who I was doing it. That's why I had it so arranged that individuals came in and did just what they have to do and nothing else. So that they would have taken anything that they could have turned to say that it was treasonable, then I would have been arrested. Because the fact of my arrest, the thing turned when I was able to contact the Sheikh Al-Azhar and show him all the documentation from the time I've been coming to Egypt from 1939 all the way back, and then that intensity from 1957 when I started to bring groups all the way up to 1991. Then he understood.
Explain
then,
who he is, Doc, for the brothers and sisters listening, how Muslim law works, because it's very interesting.
In Egypt, you have two systems of law. You have the public law, and then you have the religious law. For instance, marriage is under the religious law. And then the Sheikh Al-Azhar is at the head of the religious law. He's elected by other sheikhs, among them, by integrity. It is, in a sense, like the Vatican, but quite different. The Sheikh Al-Azhar, for instance, if you're convicted of a murder, and the court, the civil court, they order you to be hanged, the only man that can suspend that or remove it is the Sheikh Al-Azhar. So that in something, the Sheikh Al-Azhar is higher than the president of Egypt. In religious matter, his word is supreme, not the president of Egypt. So only if you're charged with treason against the state does the president have a voting position. But the Sheikh Al-Azhar is above him in any matter pertaining to religion.
Now, when you mentioned taking these materials to the Sheikh Al-Azhar, what occurred at that point?
Well, when I took all the information to the Sheikh Al-Azhar and a copy of every book, because this man, they charged me with trying, one, to separate Egypt into two nations, Nubia, the ancient section which was Nubia, and the other section which was called Egypt, to trying to overthrow Islam by introducing Judaism and or Christianity. The last thing I was charged with is trying to undermine the records in Al-Azhar. What had happened is that they had my vitae. So they know everything that from the different schools. They even, and I don't know where to get a copy of it, they published my degrees from Cuba. And I had problems finding mine. I had problems finding my first grade record because they don't mean that much to me. You know, the piece of paper that was given out saying that I had gone someplace. Now, they had copies of that. Now, the only way I could find is that somebody invaded the privies of some institution and got those records. But then I realized too that the festival, I had to present to the Hall of Records all copies of everything of my qualification. That too was with the Egyptian equivalent of the FBI and CIA at El Borg. So I knew that. I then had to go to the equivalent of the FBI for a clearance of my status in terms of my record, any record of criminality. That was passed with flags down, but I then found that for 7 months, all of my neighbors where I live were investigated, and personally with respect to myself. So that this thing had been going, and now, but the reason I was able to stop them is because when I made the festival with the logo and everything, I was wise enough to think of, let me register the logo. And so when they tried to steal the festival from me, but what to me the worst part was when the 7 Nubian legislators, and there are 7 in the Parliament of Egypt, neither of them knew me and could remember me when the newspaper broke.
What do you mean they couldn't remember you?
Somehow they can recall having some conversation with me, but when they were interviewed, they didn't remember very well. They couldn't say to walk up right now and find me, yet my picture was on any newspaper. Any fool who wasn't blind could find me.
And you've been going to Egypt since how long?
I've been going to Egypt from 1939.
I see.
Before most of them was born. And there were so many people who lost memory about me. My best guide, Brother Farouk, who I always have, and when he was down at Abu Simbel, who I helped personally in bringing up his knowledge of Egypt and so forth, give him personal Nubian history. He told me when I was for the festival that he could not be my guide this time because, like the others, he too was a Nubian, but he was first Egyptian. So Sister Stella, that assists Dr. John Clark, she went to him and knowing it, said to him, what kind of thing this is you going to do to Dr. Ben? And then he came to me after he heard that the Sheikh Al-Azhar had issued the order that the newspaper must print an apology.
And it was interesting in terms of what you indicated to me when we were speaking about this, that the Sheikh Al-Azhar, in issuing that particular directive, issued it in an important way, that they had done 7 articles on you, and the retraction had to go a particular way.
7 different articles.
7 different articles retracting it as well. Yeah.
And the newspaper man has been fired from the newspaper, and I'm suing them for my loss and triple damage. The loss was $47,000 US. And I'm asking for triple damage.
There was certainly, I guess, in this particular situation, a thought that occurred in the minds of a number of different people, and that was that, again, as I indicated, Professor Jeffries was in Africa at the same time that we were actually, and came back to find the media attack that had been launched against him here in America. But Doc, when we and Professor Jeffries sat right in the seat that you're sitting now and made a very clear acknowledgement, something that's obvious to many of us, but maybe not so obvious to everyone, that we are children of yourself and Dr. John Henry Clark. So that to a great extent, when we look across the country and we see Professor Jeffries and the Asa Hilliards of the world and so many others across the country, you really very much, and Dr. Clark, are really the people who birthed to the world many of these great minds and gave many of us the first indication of where our particular roots were from. What are your thoughts about this reaction to what is being proposed now in terms of this fear about a curriculum that's going to be including information about African people and about indigenous African accomplishments? What is your feeling about this resistance?
Well, I think, I am not surprised of what's happening because I guess this is off from, I was banned from St. Kitts with Bradshaw. He's dead now, so probably the ban is gone. I was banned from Guinea by Secretary and banned from Tanzania by Nyeri. All of them banned me for my racist beliefs, which is my nationalist. I don't bend, I don't give on these positions. Now, I explained to all of the brothers, nothing is wrong when you're willing to be accommodation. If you're willing to accommodate what they are willing to accept in negotiation, you will have no problem. But if you're willing to go out and fight at the foundation of this society to pull it down, they're going to come at you with everything. Mm-hmm. So when they put my picture in with Dr. Clark and Dr. Jeffries, and Dr. Jeffries was on the west coast of Africa, I was 6,000 miles away in the east coast with Dr. Clark. When they put us together and named and said that I was the arch enemy in the sense that it was my works and writing that started the whole thing, that too wasn't surprising. My role with Malcolm X at every Thursday at 22 West, that wasn't so surprising when people came and attacked me in one or the other. If you're fighting and you're killing snakes, you're subject to be bitten by one. You know? And if you expect to be in the kitchen and fat don't spatter on you, then get out. see, if I've been put in jail many times, but when I put me in jail, I don't ask to see no judge, and no district attorney and all that. If they come, okay. I want a piece of paper so I can write. This give me a chance to write a little worse than I wrote before. You see, if you are fighting, you expect to get hurt. You don't want to get hurt. Nobody likes pain unless he's a masochist. But if they didn't expect this day would come, you talking about that the Jews are a bunch of liars, including the rabbis, the chief rabbi, including in Tel Aviv. Jenkins need to know that. No, you are saying that the Adam and Eve story, then you got people right here in this audience you messing with immediately when you say that. A brothers and sisters who love me right here. But when I say that Adam and Eve is a fraud, and willing to show it by taking them to see it's a fraud, when I challenge Christianity, the Mary thing, the Romanized version of Michelangelo's cousin, I'm in that statement, I am attacking butts. And I'm attacking White Walker, two friends of mine, because unless they move for the position, I got to hit them. I got to keep going at them. So, what I am doing, when I attack Greek education, every member of a fraternity or a sorority that call himself a Greek or a freak, I'm attacking them. That includes members of my family, children and grandchildren. I'm attacking. So what I'm saying, in this, I may not be a purist in my life because being human, but I'm a purist in my philosophy and a purist in my nationalism.
We will take a break on that note and we'll come back. Dr. Ben is with us live at the world-famous Apollo Theater. Stand by. Blackman of the Nile and his family revisited when we come back in the GBE. It's a global black experience live at the world-famous Apollo Theater.
WLIB.
We are back live at the Apollo Theater and the house is full. Put your hands together in the GBE. Live at Talk Radio 1190 WLIB. Woo! Man, the brothers and sisters are here. And of course with us, Dr. Ben. Well, you know, Doc mentioned having started to go to Kemet back in 1939. As far back as the 1950s, some of us who were in school during that time can remember the descriptions of Africa or African people. I remember specifically at East High School in the 60s, where it should have been different, that the basic section about Africa just said that it was a group of people with broad noses, wide, thick lips, who spoke with a slur. This was the entire statement about the African continent. How far have things come? You know, of course, what is happening with the curriculum of inclusion, but I hold in front of you a copy of Newsweek magazine. Newsweek poses the question on its front cover, was Cleopatra black? It goes on to say, facts or fantasies, a debate rages over what to teach our kids, mind you, about their roots. When you open it to the center page area, the piece is called African Dreams. Black Americans were robbed of their history. Now they are reclaiming it for future generations. But it gets tricky, folks, now, as you can imagine. Now, the article goes on. A is for Ashanti, B is for black, and C is for curriculum, which is starting to change. And it goes on posing point after point after point. And if you, now this is all the same article now, on the same subject. But finally, when they reach this particular area, it says, out of Egypt, Greece. And in it is an author by the name of Bernal, who is an author of a book called Black Athena. They have him in this instance with a picture that they are attempting to, I guess, show, as he indicates it, trying to lessen European cultural arrogance. Now, I repeat that Doc began going to Kemet in what year now? 1939. Did you see anywhere in here a picture of Dr. Ben? Now, what are we talking about now? We're talking now that at this point where the truth finally must be told, that they would like to take credit for even this new truth about our people. But we know who the source is, and he's sitting right here on stage at the world-famous Apollo. Doc, this particular book, Dr. John Henry Clark called it one of his finest, is Blackman of the Nile and his family. Doc, take us down the Nile, if you would.
Yeah, before, can you give me 2 minutes? Because
Sure.
I suffered a very bad situation day before yesterday to a person who I respect dearly, the family. As a matter of fact, I was a teacher of their son at Harlem Prep and taught him equally at the university. And something happened yesterday, day before, and I see it in her perspective equally. You know, you saw Ferial, and a number of people have seen Ferial. She's not hidden. She's of Nubian Egyptian parentage, a little darker than my mother, with a higher nose bridge than my mother, with more kinky hair than my mother. So, yet there are people who come to Egypt and would say that this is an Arab Egyptian. And this lady withdrew her relationship with me and was very unkind, even to the point of when I said, well, my mother has straighter hair than this lady, and you can find her any time in any one of the gatherings at First Wall on a Saturday. I said, then you will put my money in the same category, Gary. And the sister said, yes. If your mother is mixed like her, then she too is this, that, and the other thing. I felt rather bad about it because, as you know, that I'm a person who is particularly clear as to who I will mate with or don't mate with. Not only in the terms of color, but in terms of character, because I don't sleep with anything I can't walk with next morning. And I felt by now that people would understand. I make some errors, but that's too obvious an error to make. It wouldn't be an error in that case. It would be callousness on my part. And I thought that since I've been hearing this rumor going around, I thought that it should lay low, because I don't hide my apartment. I don't hide anybody that I associate with. They're open to everyone. And whatever the relationship I have with each of those persons are visible to anyone who's around. And I thought that the viciousness of that kind of thing doesn't help me. I'm going to continue work. It doesn't help me, but it doesn't hinder, but it does make some obstruction. And I think it's time that we start getting away with that little pettiness. But now we could go to important things. In Blackman of the Nile, I took approximately 10 years of collected material. Then it took me 5 years to put it together in the form that you see. In the meantime, I was doing other works, of course, because Blackman of the Nile was not the first work that came out. There were many other works I did that came up before Blackman of the Nile, because I wanted it. I didn't have any idea that it would even be considered one of the best of my work, because at the time I didn't have so many works. But I wanted to bring out a book that was more encyclopedic, at the same time readable, and for the person at a 7th grade level. Much later, when I was writing, I used one of my daughters, one named Colette. Her name is Makeda, then call her Colette, as a guinea pig. And if you read in the 7th grade level, then you should be able to read my work. That isn't true for everything in the work, because some words you can't break down to that point. Blackman of the Nile was just as the title said. And then I added, because I found that something was missing. Black man of the Nile. Is he on the Nile by himself? Does he have his children with himself? Does he doesn't have a woman with him? So then I added, I decided that more had to be added and the title had to be revised to include his woman and his children. So Black man and wife and his family. I needed to go back as far as I could with who is this black man I'm speaking about. And then I found that Adam and Eve was inadequate to deal with this man. That this black man was before Adam and Eve, was before Jehovah, was before Jesus, was before Allah. The black man I'm talking about was there who made religion and established who God was. This black man I speak about established a goddess simultaneously when he established a God. It was the spiritual family. Now, the black man I was speaking about was the leader, the presenter of high culture, which Westerners call civilization, and gave to the world integrity. Now, that means if you give to the world integrity, first give it to the African. And then in researching, I found the answer to what I had been doing by going here, getting bits and pieces together, was a statement from High Priest Hunefa, where Hunefa, around the early kingdom, the old kingdom, is to let the world know where the Egyptians originated. I mean, everybody going, I see there's going to be a conference in Temple University, Benel and all of them going to be down there, and they're going to discuss, is Egypt in Africa? I mean, if there was anything that is asinine, it is a conference to discuss. Take a map, you don't need no damn conference. Take a map. Well, as you could see, Hunefa said, and clearly so, we, referring to the Egyptians, came from the beginning of the Nile, where God happy dwells, at the foothills of the mountain of the moon, unquote. A clear, fully clear statement. And that's in our Bible. It's one of the papyri in the book of Coming Forth by Day and by Night. Because you know it's got many, many different papyri.
What do you mean it's in the Bible? What do you mean by that?
Well, a Bible is a book with a compilation of sacred writing. What makes it sacred? It means those writings which people want to keep for themselves holy. It is a part of them. That's what sacred means, nothing else than that. A sacred writing, you could go to the bathroom and use it if you run out of toilet paper. As long as you got a copy. I mean, you don't want to get rid of the copy. There's nothing most. I mean, the Bible is the same thing. You do the same thing. But we got people frightened that the point is with us, and Colin and a number of people want to know, why don't we act a certain way? We don't act a certain way because we're like Pavlov dogs. We have been trained to take it to the Lord in prayer and leave it at his doorstep. We have been prayed to sing, "Make me whiter than snow." Then all these different behavior patterns that we do, how can you expect us to behave that way when you train it? Before we got our mother's breast in our mouth to live, Mama start telling us about this white cracker God. So and then they ask me to behave differently. How can you train me every step of the way? It is a certain, and then you ask me to behave different. No. Blackman of the Nile was to remove this. Blackman of the Nile was to compilate for my people, I never write for the world. I don't write for one white individual on the face of this earth. Now, you want... Up last night, a man called me in my house from California, and he wants some information. I started to give the brother information. He started to say, well, you know, Dr. Ben, I want to use this to educate the black and white brothers on campuses. Look, wait a minute. You call me for free information. I've taken my time to give you free information. And now you tell me you want to take this information and share it with the world. What have the world shared with you? Oh, I said, look, if you promise me this information is going to be used for black people, I'll continue. If it's important to you that you're going to have to use it among the world, good night. Now, you see, why can't I be racist too? You see, everybody, as somebody said, that is racist. I am supposed to say, well, no, I'm not a racist. Why not? Why can't I be a racist? Huh? I got a black mother, a black father, black children, great-grandchildren. I got about two of them there, grandchildren there in the audience, and a daughter-in-law. Why can't I be? I mean, I am not going begging pardon for being a racist. Everybody is complaining about being a racist. Do you know anyone in America who's not a racist, including the man in charge of justice? The chief of the Supreme Court of the United States is a white racist. No, why can't I be? Billy Graham is a racist. Huh? The Pope in Rome is a racist. Why it's exclusive that black people can't get racist, especially when I'm praising my family. Blackman on the Nile is a document to the black woman. Blackman the world is intended to put the black woman sitting on the moon, not under the moon, on top the moon. And if there's anything higher than that, on top that. Blackman of the moon, Nile, is to give integrity to that black child so that he will know that he's so great he don't have to touch crack. He's flying already. That's what it is. It is telling the black family, you understand, telling the black family before anybody else decide to change the course of nature, you and your other ancestors had already started and introduced the rest of the world to it. That's what it's doing. And to show it.
And Doc, this is a point. When I think the first trip that you took me on to Kemet several years back, I experienced something I didn't expect to experience, because I mean I went certainly ready for, I think, the historical atmosphere, ready for the cultural thing and so forth. But I got hit the first time, and I was a little bit more ready the second time, but it happened again. It was really the spiritual relationship, the fact that in reality you're really going to the Holy Land. That's where you really are going. You are going to the original Holy Land, and what happens is that to a certain extent, you know, you feel it, and then you have to begin to recognize that the words that you're seeing really do have meaning, in that when we talk about other religions, Christianity, Judaism, Islam, they come from and evolve from that particular root.
For instance, what Blackman and the Nile and many others are doing, I have did volunteer work on the island over there for people who have get a little off. And one of the biggest problems there is women who come with a guilt feeling. And most common among that is the guilt feelings about having become pregnant and have a child and not married. And then the church accuse and prosecute them for it. And they have to stand up in front of the congregation and beg the Lord for forgiveness and all this. Well, Blackman on the Nile, one of the features in it is to remove from that woman, that African woman, any stigma of her pregnancy. That, in my opinion, as that I saw, there were no marriage between any of the goddesses. and there were no marriage between Mary and anybody. Now, what Blackman and I carry her to see is not whether or not she had a paper for City Hall, but whether or not she and her man had a relationship that included their spirituality. That when she saw the Immaculate Conception, I'm trying to show the black woman that the Immaculate Conception has nothing to do with the Pope's distortion of sex. It has nothing to do with the hymen of a woman. That a woman could have had 6 children, 10 children, and still have an Immaculate Conception, and all 6 could have been immaculately conceived.
Hold on. I want you to explain that, because we all want to hear that when we come back right after this. We're in the GBE live from the world-famous Apollo Theater. Dr. Ben is with us, taking us through the book, Blackman of the Nile and His Family. You'll have a chance to talk with Doc when we come back in the GBE live at the world-famous Apollo Theater. We are focusing today and giving you a chance to walk down the Nile with us, Blackman of the Nile and His Family in focus with Dr. Ben this afternoon. Doc, you were saying something a moment ago about an immaculate conception, and obviously it takes us into some of the dimensions of what we've seen in terms of Christianity and the Bible, and of course, as you've indicated to many of us and shown us, they really have their origins in a civilization thousands of years before their original statement.
Yes, as I was saying, the Immaculate Conception, mothers in here, any mother in here who had not been quote-unquote promiscuous during the time when she became pregnant, let's say if a young woman after her last menstrual period that she know had been involved with a man and became pregnant, and she knows she had not been involved with any other man since her previous menstrual period, she can be assured that her pregnancy belongs only to that one man. She had an immaculate conception. If she had 2 and 3 men, just two men, she's not certain who she's pregnant for. Could be one or the other. Then she couldn't have an immaculate. It meant a pure, a clean, a honorable, a pregnancy with integrity. I'll give you an example. The Christians, most Christians don't even know that the Immaculate Conception is not, Jesus not involved with it. The Immaculate Conception is Mary was born. That's the ritual in the Roman Catholic Church. From her mother didn't have a man. That's the teaching of the church. The feast of the Immaculate Conception is not Mary having Jesus, but Mary, mother, having her. There was no sex in the family for 3 generations. I mean, but when you go to Abydos, you see the Immaculate Conception. You see the resurrection. Has nothing to do with Jesus getting killed and coming from down. The resurrection is Osiris penis from a dead level rising to a perpendicular. When it was taken off, cut off by his brother, thrown over with the other 13 parts, when the Nile catfish ate it, and Isis went and appeased God Ra to give him back so that they could make another good God to replace Set Typhon, not to be here just as the bad God alone. You know the whole story.
And all these are actually exhibited in the temples and so forth?
They're on the temples. Anybody who went there, including yourself, saw these exhibits. They saw them cut into stone. They saw where the early Christians, the early Jews, the early Muslims tried to chip away and get rid of this information so that anybody would think that theirs were the original. I mean, you come and see these things, and that's why I say, anybody dealing with them got to be persecuted. Mm-hmm. I got to catch hell. Mm-hmm. You know, because I'm dealing with somebody's bread. I'm dealing with somebody's Cadillac, the Mercedes-Benz and all that kind of thing, you know, and let's get it. And so they're not going to sit back there and let me damage the bread. So my only hope is that there will be enough people to continue on because you know pretty well I with this I'm not going to get many Cadillac, no Cadillac at all. I'm driving a 11-year-old, they don't even make them anymore. Ford Granada. Don't make them, but see, I learned that it's only transportation, you see, so it doesn't matter how old it is. But that's what another thing what the book is doing. What I try to do with all my readings and writings is it's not good enough to teach, you must demonstrate. Most of us want to teach, but we don't want to be, as the old folks say, we don't want to witness. You see, we want to teach and then say to you, when you see me not witnessing, I can tell you, well, do as I say, but not necessarily what I do. See, to me that's hypocrisy. See, and I got no need for a guy like that. I will try to demonstrate to the maximum. If you find me getting weak, pull my coattails. Say, hey, man, you teaching this, brother, and you're waving over there. Maybe it slipped me. Maybe I go the way of the flesh, as they say. Just cut my toe, and I will do that. See, I can't preach this. See, when I get in shock for I mean, it used to be.